We'll be live on YouTube in exactly 10 seconds. Prajakta ma'am, you can take the mic, please.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. On behalf of BVDUIHMCT, I, Prajakta Parasnis, would like to welcome Mr. Ketan Heda, the guest speaker for today's session of Startup Stories, organized by IIC BVDUIHMCT Pune. Mr. Heda is an alumnus of BVDUIHMCT of batch 2006. I would like to welcome the faculty members and the students for this session. I request Dr. Lalita Chirmule, Principal BVDU IHMCT and President IIC BVDU IHMCT Pune to give the inaugural speech. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Prajakta. A very good evening to all. A warm welcome to you, Ketan, the writer of our first successful startup story in the startup series of our institution's Innovation Council and Entrepreneurship Development Cell, which has been constituted recently. I would also like to welcome our faculty and students aboard this forum. In alignment with the vision of our founder, Chancellor, Honorable Dr. Patangrao Kadam, social transformation through dynamic education, as well as the government policy of Atmanirbhar Bharat, we are trying to pursue both these goals with utmost vigor and passion. In fact, Bharati Vidyapeeth is an excellent example of a glorious startup to spread the light of education by our founder, Dr. Patanrao Kadam. We are truly proud to introduce Mr. Ketan Heda, our alumnus, and today a successful performance consultant, legal head, Heda and Associates, and a neuro-linguistic practitioner. Ketan is multi-skilled, multi-talented, and dons many hats at the same time. His multitasking ability has helped him and his firm grow at a national as well as at an international level. I remember Ketan in college as a curious, intelligent, friendly, and bright student of hotel management. He stood out in the crowd with his mischievous twinkle in his eyes. He was always forthright with his questions and ready with answers. I feel all these qualities and many more have contributed to Ketan's multifaceted personality. We are all interested in knowing your success story, Ketan, and I wish you the very best in your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Our pleasure.
Thank you, madam, for your words. I am delighted to introduce the guest speaker, Mr. Ketan Heda. As Chirmule ma'am has already said, a performance consultant, legal head of Heda and Associates, and NLP practitioner. Mr. Heda started his career in the hospitality sector and was a part of operations, sales, and training and management. Training being his passion, he went ahead with consultancy on business as well as on individual level. He started with Acharan Consulting, where he consulted clients from various sectors like hospitality industry, education, real estate, automation, and IT industry. His contribution in positioning the company in global market was commendable. He has been guiding individuals from different professions and making it easy for them to find appropriate solutions. It would not be an exaggeration to state that he is instrumental behind many success stories. I would now request Mr. Heda to commence the session. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Prajakta ma'am.
Welcome, sir.
And thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Rupesh, sir, in fact. Thank you all to have me here. I really can't express in words how happy I am to come here, because it was just a few years back that I was sitting on the other side of the benches, and then there is 15 years in between, and every single time as an alumnus of an institute such as Bharati Vidyapith, whatever little contributions you do to your own life as well as others' life, you always want to tell it to somebody, you want to share it with somebody, and somebody that can put those things to use. Also mistakes, not just success stories, but sometimes a little bit setback also. And then today, here's my chance, I guess, to do that. Okay, sir, Swapnil sir, could you help me with the presentation, sir?
Sure,
I'm really paralyzed here because I can't present.
No worries, sir.
Yes. So yeah, because I have been in those chairs, I know how boring it can get if it is real big and knowledge oriented session as such. And ma'am rightly said, you guys can see the mischievous twinkle, I guess, even today. So I know how it is. I've understood the people. I'll quickly try to summarize what I have learned in these last 15 years. Sir, could you take me to the next slide, please? So, like I said, it all started here in those benches. My time at the institute between 2002 to 2006. At the risk of sounding cliched and repetitive, everybody who's passed out would tell you that college years were the golden years. And I know it is repetitive, and I still want to say that those were indeed the golden years. We learned out of everything. We were punished at times. We were rewarded at times. We did good, we did bad, and all of those small little things were experiences in itself. I think what stands out for me is, back in those days when I was sitting in the college, I sometimes as a kid you would rebel, you would resist. There was a disciplinarian air in the environment. There was a lot that was expected of us, and we had to deliver a lot. And then we used to benchmark ourselves or put other streams as yardsticks, and see our friends from engineering or commerce or other management subjects having kind of a ball of a time, in colleges. And sometimes we used to worry, or rather maybe think in the hindsight that did we do a mistake coming into this course where you have to stand behind a kitchen counter or a service counter for 16 hours a day sometimes. It is so tough. Do we deserve it? Did we actually ask for this? There are a lot of questions. Today, because I have the privilege of hindsight now, I am able to think of it in a different light. What it actually shaped us in doing was, help us understand that there is something called as expectation management. Once you cross that line and get into the real life, every single hour, every client or every employer that will hire you, for every penny he pays you, he expects a set of deliverables. And I think for most other courses, it comes across suddenly as a big push as to I was enjoying my college life and suddenly I am let into this jungle. And then that's why you will see those merry quotes on Facebook and Instagram where people say, oh, that life was so good and this is mess. Well, we don't think of it as mess because we were prepped up. We were already oriented towards that life in these 4 years. Sir, could you take me to the next slide? Yes. So 2006, I passed out. I got a campus recruitment at McDonald's. I stuck around for 6 months at McDonald's. Then I had a brief stint with the Leela, the Radisson. And what I learned at McDonald's and the Leela was what is the role of processes in building up an organization. I can guarantee you guys that McDonald's is by far, irrespective of the industry, by far the most process sound organization globally. I'm being domain agnostic here. I'm being industry irrespective here. I have not seen an organization that has such robust processes, such documented processes, and I think that is one of the biggest key to their successes. And mind you, this success happens in an industry where, like for example, you guys are cooking, we're from the same fraternity, and I'm sure given everything else being equal, given the same kind of ingredients, the same kind of experience, everything, yet if you cook something and if you recook something on some other day, there is bound to be that 5% of a difference at least, even if you're a good cook. Now, look at McDonald's. They have the same menu, they do it day in, day out, and they do it across so many number of restaurants in a region or globally, and yet they are able to manufacture the same kind of taste every single time. It's not funny. And I think all of the credit goes because of their sound operational processes, which is what I got to learn there. Now, when I was in college, I was very sure from day one that, in fact, I joined hotel management only because I wanted to someday start my own setup, get into business someday. I had no idea what it will be, which space it will be in, what form, what manner, but I wanted to do a business. In this city, in Pune, I don't belong to Pune, as in I wasn't born and brought up in Pune. So when I was taking up these assignments, I was also parallelly thinking that, I'm learning processes with these large organizations. Having said that, even if I'm able to brew the best coffee in town, how am I going to communicate this to my customers, or how am I going to let the market know that, you get the best coffee here? So I understood that sales or marketing is something that I need to learn. I need to develop contacts in the city. And for sales, then I approached Radisson. I had a brief assignment with them. There, I got into learning sales, but I also realized that what helped me at Leela and McDonald's, the sound processes, was in fact now becoming a deterrent. Because their processes were so sound, I couldn't learn much. So that was the time when I thought that probably I should look at a smaller hotel, of a smaller standing, just city-based hotel. And fortunately, I got Studio Estique. Back then, it was called Central Park Studios. It's just outside Inox Theatre in city center. And I approached them. They liked my abilities, and they brought me on board for sales. I was the first sales guy there, and I spent 4 years in that hotel. And believe you me, I learned everything that I could and I should at this hotel. It's just a 39-room property, but because I was the first salesperson, I could actually build up sales processes from the scratch and execute, deliver. If I did a mistake, I would bear the brunt of it. If I did well, I would be rewarded. So although it was a job, it was very entrepreneurial in nature. So I learned a lot. And I'm sorry, sir, could you just take the next slide?
Sure.
And I think in 2010 came the tipping point, that point where I thought that I have identified so business generally happens when there is a gap in the market. There has to be a gap in demand and supply. Customers have to demand something, and in the supply side, there has to be a gap. Only then can you enter as an entrepreneur, right? That gap just doesn't have to be product supply. It could be service supply. It could be idea supply. It could be form of services, whatever. So I realized that kati kebabs, very handy. Rolls, basically rolls and wraps, very handy. There was a joint called, there is a joint, called Kapila Kati Kebab. I was myself a fan of it, and I thought this is pretty handy. It will work in corporate areas, and it is a go-to food, and especially because Pune was very Cosmo in nature, so I think it will do well. and I started something called Darshan's Kati Kebab in 2010. I had a vision of, scaling it up and making it into a franchised business model. And today, probably, friends, you might not think of this as a very audacious or a lucrative idea. But back in 2010, none of your Rolls Mania, roll fees, or your Fasus, none of these existed. So it was pretty good, pretty breakthrough an idea. And once I started bouncing it off to a few of my colleagues or industry experts, and they all loved the idea. And then what? We started, and the day we started, there was a queue of customers standing outside our outlet. Our chef was actually brought in from Taj, so he was a really good chef. And believe you me, not just because it was mine, but the Kati Kebabs were one of the best in town. Quite a few of them said that they were better than Kapila also at that time. So it was just a perfect recipe for success of a business. And we were raking in millions of rupees, and there were people outside of the business hours. There were people queuing up for franchisees with almost blank checks. Except none of this is true. Okay, so could you take me to the next slide? So our first business was, by the way, the chef being from Taj and the Kati Kebabs being really good was all correct, but it was a failure. The business failed, and we just couldn't. It was just in less than 4 months that things started going wrong. We're going too far ahead.
Sorry.
So the business model was right, the product was good, the locations were nice, and there was handy traction also. Somehow we just couldn't figure out what went wrong. If everything else is equal, why are we not making revenue? Why is it not sustaining? Why is it not growing? And all of these worries, and we hit the panic button in less than 4 months. And by the time it saw the 6th month of operation, it was already shut. So that was a disaster. Also, there's a set of expectation as a first-time entrepreneur. Your family, your friends, your colleagues, ex-colleagues, industry people, all of them, they look up to you. Yaar, iska ek acha job tha. He would have been the youngest sales manager in town, and what has he done? All of that. Probably all of that was weighing on my own mind. Maybe nobody was giving that much of a thought also. But at that time, you're just in a very bad shape mentally also. So we thought, rather I thought, I was alone that time. So I thought it's time to sit and brainstorm and look at what went wrong, take some learning out of this failure, and got to the boardroom. Sir, could you take me to the next slide? We got to the boardroom, and we realized that we've understood people, we've understood the market problems, the gap in the demand and supply. We've entered well. Probably what should have been better was planning, business planning, and preparation. And we had no idea of this. We just didn't know how to do this. So this is the time when I enrolled myself for a distance learning MBA, for a few organizational development courses as well, and rethought, realigned everything. And I had a partner now joining me, a couple of partners actually, both of them visionaries from the same industry, one of them my college mate also. And so next slide, please. And we sat on the boardroom and we came up with another idea, which was Exodus Hospitality Solutions in 2011. I think in 2013 it became a private limited also. And here was a company which was so audacious that we actually wrote it down in our profile that we are your one-stop shop for all hospitality needs across the board. We had a pan-India network. We operated right from Jammu and Kashmir till Kerala, till far northeast, to Rajasthan, everywhere. We had a business travel network. We had a leisure travel network. We had hotels, banquets. You ask for anything under the sun, because we were very sure that we have client. we have clients, we have understanding of the industry, and we will be able to sell. So we did strategic partnerships, we did strategic alliances, and then we had a client base of around 1,000 odd clients between the three of us. So we took the product out, we went to all of these companies, and when we told them that, you just contact one person and all your hospitality needs will be taken care of, we explained it to people, and by the time we were half into our presentations, they were already on board. They were kind of waiting for a company like this, and they signed contracts with us. Except none of this is true either. So could you take me to the next slide? Initially, because we were very aggressive and we wanted to correct our past mistakes, everything went well, and then this happened. There's suddenly a crash, no traction at all, no business coming in. And this time again, in spite of planning, preparation, in spite of now having some capital reserves also with us, people were just not buying us. And again, this was logic defying. This was very heartbreaking because we put in everything that we know. We came down all cylinders, all guns blazing, and yet people aren't buying. And we actually started going out and asking customers now. We were so frustrated that what is it that you want? I mean, I'm giving you everything under the sun. Whatever it is that you want, you got to decide your product and we will offer it to you. What else do you want? Okay, even the price point, we were so flexible with the pricing that we could beat almost every other competitor. And then one day, one of the customers, while talking to us, was kind of friendly also. So while talking to us, he said something interesting. He said, "Ketan, तेरे पास इतना सब कुछ है, कभी-कभी मैं भूल जाता हूँ कि तू exactly क्या करता." And that kind of, set the ball rolling again. We went back to the drawing board again, all of us, and we thought that probably because we have so much to offer, our customers aren't able to understand what is it exactly that we do. What is it that they should remember us for? And markets cannot remember you for more than 2 or 3 things. It might sound logically, it might sound a very nice idea that you are doing 10,000 things. Somehow, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way, and we found it out the hard way. So I think the word that was missing was, sir, the word is on the next slide. One more time. Yes, this one. I think, and in fact, this is the time when I came across a very interesting book by the same title, written by Al Rees. This guy actually came up with a lot of case studies and numbers suggesting that how diversifying too much is not such a good idea. And we realized that, this is not how we can go ahead. We need to narrow down. We need to sharpen ourselves. We need to focus. We can't take everything under our stripes. We were young back then, but then we thought there is some time in life where you have to take a call and you have to start saying no to some things. So we started saying no to a few things and started focusing ourselves or concentrating only on a few verticals. And this way, business started moving well, actually. Now, this is real. Okay, so we actually started getting revenue. We actually started getting traction. We got good Fortune 500 kind of clients on board. Some of the top industry clients were our clients, or rather, we were vendors to them, and we were doing good revenues. We were exploring our strategic partnerships, our network, and sir, could we move next slide? And I think it was a perfect mix for how a company should go ahead, how a startup should go ahead. In fact, we got an angel investor also. So we invested in infrastructure, we invested in offices, we invested in marketing our own business. And that is the time when, things started moving. People now started taking cognizance of Exodus Hospitality and Ketan Heda and the team. And market started knowing us. So ship was now sailing smooth. And yet, there was something amiss, something that was, this was the exact time when I also bumped into neuro-linguistic programming. some other day what neuro-linguistic programming is. I'll cover that probably if I get a chance on some other day. But while doing that, there was a lot of retrospection. There was a lot of introspection actually, and there was a lot of talks, discussions, and we were wondering as to if even if everything is going fine, we are earning good money, we are getting good kind of fame and recognition, what is it that is missing? And so next slide, please. Yeah, I think, yes, this was something that was missing. We were getting money, but the technical part of it, that was just not exciting. Every single day, whenever we had to interact with people, all of us, we would just jump out of our beds and get to office. But if there was no people, we weren't really excited about the process, or we weren't really excited about the product as such. Not that we were disinterested, but we weren't passionate. So that question was lingering on our minds as to whatever we are doing, what good use is this of? So I think all of us, it didn't have to be motivated by somebody. All of us almost equivocally came to this conclusion that what we are doing, probably this is not our passion area. So we started introspecting further and realized that where it all started, the first point in the previous slide, people solving people's problem, that was actually our passion. Because of the problems of not earning well or not doing good business or revenue pressures, we started getting into whatever we could lay our hands on. But going further, that is not going to be such a nice strategy, because only because probably we would not be very well aligned with what we are doing. And we all thought that, of course, everybody wants to make money, and it is very important, make no mistakes. How else do you pay checks? How else do you pay salaries, rents, everything? So money was important, and at the same time, we all thought that probably we are in business, or we could sustain in business only if we are aligned on passion's term, or on a larger purpose. We all thought that what is it that the market is going to know us for? What is it that we stand for? What is it that what is it that our customers, our clients, or market in general would remember us for? And I think that was the turning point when all of us thought that people and solving problems was my passion, was something that was my drive, my purpose, my mission in life. So it wasn't such a big fight. I put my papers down at Exodus, and I started. Sir, could we get on to the next slide? I started another firm in 2016, which is Acharan Consulting. Now, sir, one more slide. Sorry. In 2016, Acharan was just a training firm, was just into trainings. And this is the time when we realized that if we want to do consulting, business consulting and behavioral consulting, we have to be a little more than just what we are in terms of skill sets. So I took admission at IIM Bangalore and did an executive education in strategy consulting itself from IIM Bangalore. And slowly, eventually, the company started evolving. The pace of evolution was very fast at Acharan. This was probably because there was 6 years of learnings already before we got into this. So that's why we could accelerate. We got investors, we got people to believe in the idea. And what we started doing is we started touching, for businesses and professionals, we started touching their people, we started touching their processes, and we start touching their bottom lines. We started making an impact in these 3 areas. And sooner than later, Acharan became a consulting firm based out of Pune, and I got started to be known as a business analyst as well as a performance coach, as ma'am had introduced me. It so happened that we were dealing with the likes of Emerson, we were dealing with the likes of Tata Group, we were dealing with the likes of Reliance, Indian Oil, I think Fiat, Schindler. These are the kind of clients we start getting for training segment. And for consulting segment, we got huge 100 crore plus kind of companies, medium-sized companies on board with us. And we were lucky enough to be strategic consulting partners for Chhattisgarh T20 League in Raipur. So we helped the league roll out in 2017 and 18. So going was good. In 2019, we finally took a call. We started getting few international assignments also. So we positioned ourselves deep into East Africa, and now we have an office in Uganda and in Pune also, and one in Nagpur as well. So this has been the journey. I think Acharan is one of those firms where, again, we may not. I don't even want to comment as to what impact does the bottom line make on this company or on our lives, but all of us, we are absolutely in the happiest space of our lives from the day we have started Acharan. So, nothing bothers us. There are some setbacks in Acharan also, like Corona itself. The last 1 year or so itself has been very, very bad, quite evidently so. But again, we're still unaffected because this is what we want to do. This is who we are and how we want to be grown. Okay. So this is my journey in a nutshell. And in a nutshell itself, I would like to just summarize as to what I have learned. Sir, could we just go to the next slide, please? Yeah. So first thing that I learned, if I look back at all of the experiences of my life after Rupesh sir told me that I got to talk to you guys today, I just sat and thought as to really what have I learned in life out of all of these experiences. And when I say life, it's just 15 years, friends. So one thing I've learned for sure is there is no such thing as failure. Even what I was calling failure wasn't actually a failure. It was just a feedback. Life was telling me in its own ways that it was trying to shape me. It was trying to push me towards what I really want. And sometimes I was open to it, sometimes I wasn't. And that's why it took whatever time it took. But all of that, it wasn't a failure. It was a learning by itself. It was a feedback by itself. It just happens to be that I was in the right place at the right time to understand the right feedback. And here I am today. I think it's more of a mindset game in all of entrepreneurship, because I think it is really, there's not comparing. There is no comparison between a job and a business. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying job versus business. That's not the study. Even in a job, you can be an entrepreneur, and this is my personal belief. You can do your job entrepreneurially. But when you're an entrepreneur, you're donning a lot of hats. You're juggling a lot of balls together, and some of them keep falling, by the way. And you just got to pick it up and then restart. There is no way. There is no respite. So the mental part of it is the actual game. In India, the statistic is after the first year, around 60% of the companies shut down, the businesses shut down, and by the end of fifth year, only 15% have gone to the other side. So that's something that is worrisome. Okay, so I think it's all in here. It's your mindset, how you're looking at things. Second thing that I've realized is, and this is very important for you, friends. Yeah, leap into business for the right reasons. Okay, now when I say I talk to a lot of young blood, I talk to a lot of wannabe entrepreneurs on a daily basis now, and sometimes people come and say, "Yeah, business का बात ही अलग है, अपना खुद का मालिक बनो, अपना खुद का कोई बॉस नहीं होना चाहिए, and business people earn a lot, बहुत पैसा है यहाँ पर, आप आपके decisions खुद ले सकते हो." None of this is true, by the way. Okay, there is no good money, at least to begin with. There is no good money involved. You are living your life worse than most of your contemporaries. I can vouch that. You are spending sleepless nights. There is 22 hours of a day's work every day. Okay, so यहाँ पे कुछ ऐसा नहीं है कि in fact in a job, if there is Sunday, you get a day off, right? You can switch your mobile off, you can switch your mind off and focus on something else. Again, you can't do any of that here. Even if you're out with your family, you're still thinking about business. I mean, if a client calls, what do? You have to attend, right? And nobody's going to reward you for how many weaknesses you had and how you worked hard on them and how you overcame all of that. Nobody's going to reward you. Nobody has the time for all of that. People are going to reward you, or people are going to recognize you rather for your strengths. What are you good at? I want to know that. I don't want to understand. I don't have the time to understand what are you lacking at and how are you planning to overcome that. Although in HR rounds, in coming couple of years in your lives, you're going to be bumped into a lot of interviews, and you will be asked this question. Things what works